What hurts more than heartbreak? Falling in love with someone who makes you realize you were never enough for them in the first place. This is the story of a quiet boy whose first love didn't just break his heart, it changed the entire direction of his life. A boy who was ignored, underestimated, and rejected because he was poor. But that pain slowly turned into the fire that pushed him toward success. Everything begins on the first day of university when a freshman named Soyu rushes into class late, immediately drawing the professor's anger. Because of her, the entire class gets punished, and while everyone else is annoyed, one student can't take his eyes off her for even a second. His name is Park. From the moment she walks in, he's completely distracted. Throughout the lecture, he secretly keeps looking at her, unable to focus on anything else. Later that same day, fate places them on the same bus ride home. For Park, it feels unreal. His heart races with excitement as he starts imagining that maybe this is how love stories begin. But the problem is, Park is painfully shy. The moment Soyu catches him starring, he freezes in embarrassment, unable to say a single word. And just when things couldn't get any more awkward, they discover they actually live in the same neighborhood. Park is stunned because he has never seen someone as beautiful as Soyu anywhere near his area before. His curiosity about her only grows stronger. But before the silence between them can get any stranger, Park's best friend Nabuk suddenly appears. Unlike Park, Nabuk is loud, confident, carefree, and experienced with girls. The moment he arrives, he instantly starts teasing Park. While Park awkwardly struggles to even maintain eye contact, Nabuk casually brags about the girl standing nearby being one of his ex-girlfriends. The difference between the two friends is impossible to miss. Park is innocent, awkward, and overly cautious, while Nabuk acts like someone who owns every room he walks into. Laughing at Park's nervous personality, Nabuk tells him that if he ever wants girls to notice him, he needs confidence first, and maybe better grooming too. But changing himself isn't easy for Park. The reason he became so reserved goes back to his childhood. His mother raised him to be careful about everything. She always taught him that a man's life carries responsibility and that reckless risks only lead to regret. Because of that upbringing, Park learned to stay safe, quiet, and controlled. But after meeting Soyu, those carefully built walls slowly begin to crack. One day, while taking photographs of the city, Park accidentally captures a beautiful portrait of Soyu through his camera lens. That small moment finally leads to a proper introduction between them. But instead of being honest about himself, Park tries to appear mysterious and cooler than he really is. Unfortunately for him, the act doesn't last very long. During one of their walks, Soyu suddenly decides to enter an abandoned house nearby. Panicking immediately, Park warns her not to trespass because it's illegal. The entire place feels strangely silent and unsettling. Unable to understand why she wants to go inside, Park quickly invents a scary story, claiming that a murder once happened there. But instead of getting frightened, Soyu surprises him completely. She calmly says that if the place truly has a dark past, then she wants to fill it with beautiful memories instead. Turning something painful into something warm and alive again. Her words hit Park deeply. The next day, their professor assigns the students a project involving photographs of local buildings and architecture. For Park, this feels like the perfect excuse to spend more time with Soyu. Wanting to make a good impression, he actually puts effort into his appearance before meeting her, fixing his hair carefully and trying his best to look confident. Together, they begin exploring the city, taking pictures and slowly opening up about their lives. Park admits that after living in Seoul his entire life, the city feels dull and repetitive to him now. But Soyu sees it differently. Coming from Jeju Island, Seoul feels exciting and full of endless possibilities. As they continue talking, Soyu reveals the painful truth about her family. After losing her mother and watching her father become seriously ill, she decided she had no choice but to grow up quickly. Her goal is simple: graduate fast, succeed, and support her family financially. Hearing this, Park feels guilty for complaining earlier about things that now seem meaningless compared to her struggles. From that point onward, their bond grows naturally. They even start cleaning the abandoned house together, transforming it little by little. Soyu plants flowers there, bringing life and color into a place that once felt empty and forgotten. During one of these moments, Park nervously gathers the courage to ask if she has a boyfriend. Soyu immediately fires back with a sharp question, asking if he wants her to have one. Embarrassed, Park quickly changes the topic and awkwardly asks if there's someone she likes instead. That's when Soyu starts talking about Yiwook, a senior student every girl admires. According to her, he's tall, handsome, rich, brilliant, charming, and basically perfect. She describes him like a dream man straight out of a movie. Trying to joke around, Park points out that he's an engineering student too. But Soyu bluntly replies that unlike Yiwook, Park is poor, and honestly not that attractive either. Her words sting more than she realizes. Park laughs it off on the outside, but inside the insecurity cuts deep. That night, he shares his feelings with Nabok, admitting that ever since meeting this girl, life has started feeling strange, exciting, and painfully overwhelming at the same time. The moment Nabok hears this, he bursts into laughter and announces that Park has officially fallen in love. Curious, he asks Park to describe the girl. Smiling shyly, Park says she's cute, funny, and completely different from anyone he's ever met, but he has no idea how to make her like him back. Nabok then decides to teach him the rules of approaching girls, explaining step by step that love isn't as complicated as Park makes it in his head. According to him, the secret is simple confidence. But because Park is slightly drunk during the conversation, only one piece of advice truly stays in his mind: be confident. The very next day, Park finally gathers enough courage to ask Soyu out at the beginning of summer vacation. To his surprise, she agrees. Filled with nervous excitement, Park takes her walking near the railway tracks, and for the first time, everything feels perfect. Soyu looks genuinely happy beside him. During their time together, she casually mentions that her birthday is on November 11th and says she wants to treat him to dinner when the day comes. Later, while eating together, Park asks about her dreams for the future. Soyu's eyes light up as she talks about wanting to become a successful broadcaster someday. But then she adds something else: she also wants to marry a rich man. Her answer catches Park completely off guard. Even so, he forces himself to smile and quietly tells her that if he ever becomes a successful architect one day, he'll build a beautiful house just for her. Excited by his promise, Soyu immediately starts sketching the kind of dream house she wants someday, and watching her smile while drawing it makes Park happier than he's ever been. After spending the entire day together, the two finally head back home. But while waiting at the bus stop, something unexpected happens. Soyu slowly falls asleep on Park's shoulder. For a moment, time almost stops for him. He quietly stares at her face, completely mesmerized. He had never been this close to a girl before in his life. As the bus gently moves, her face drifts even closer toward his, and in that nervous, emotional moment, Park leans in and kisses her. Later, overflowing with excitement, he rushes to tell Nabok about it, proudly admitting that it was actually his very first kiss. But the moment Nabok hears the story, he instantly asks the question Park never expected. Wait, did she kiss you back properly? Confused, Park explains that Soyu had been asleep when he kissed her. Nabok stares at him in disbelief before asking if there was at least any real passion involved. Park awkwardly wonders whether a kiss only counts if both people are awake. Completely frustrated, Nabok tells him that what he did barely qualifies as a romantic kiss at all. According to him, it sounded more like a nervous peck between friends. Soon, a new semester begins, and Soyu receives an opportunity to become one of the campus broadcasters. Park listens to her first broadcast with genuine pride, unable to stop smiling the entire time. Later, excited to walk home with her, he goes searching for Soyu after class, only to discover she's already with Yiwook. The two of them are laughing together and planning to leave campus side by side. The moment Park sees them together, jealousy quietly begins eating away at him. Refusing to let Yiwook steal her away, he awkwardly joins them during the walk. But every second becomes torture for him as he watches Soyu and Yiwook joking around naturally, while he struggles to even enter the conversation. Then Yiwook casually asks whether something is going on between Park and Soyu. Before Park can say anything, Soyu simply smiles and says Park is just her closest friend. Trying to protect his pride, Park quickly adds that he could never have feelings for her anyway. After all, if they ever dated, he probably wouldn't even be able to afford it. Yiwook bursts into laughter after hearing that. Looking Park up and down, he mocks his worn-out clothes and jokingly says he looks more like a beggar than a university student. The humiliation crushes Park instantly. Unable to tolerate another second, he asks to be dropped off immediately and leaves. Once home, all the frustration he had bottled up explodes onto his mother. He angrily complains about the cheap clothes she buys for him and asks why everything he owns makes him look pathetic. His mother, confused and hurt, insists there's nothing wrong with his clothes. But Park, blinded by anger and insecurity, storms out while shouting that she never understands him. Later, he meets Nabok again and finally breaks down emotionally. He confesses that Soyu will probably never see him as someone worthy of love. Deep inside, he's already convinced she's falling for Yiwook. In Park's eyes, there's no way he can compete against someone richer, better looking, and more successful. But Nabok refuses to let him drown in self-pity. He reminds Park that confident men are the ones who win beautiful women over. If Park keeps hiding his feelings forever, then he'll lose Soyu without even trying. Before leaving, Nabok gives him one final piece of advice. He tells Park to confess his feelings on the first snowfall of the year, because nothing is more romantic than confessing love while snow falls around you. The next morning, Soyu asks Park for help moving into a new apartment closer to campus. Her old place was too far away, and although the new room is tiny and cramped, she treats it like the beginning of a new life. While unpacking her belongings, she shows Park old childhood photographs and quietly admits how much she misses home. But at the same time, she says going back is no longer an option. She has to succeed. She has to change her family's future no matter what it takes. Hearing her talk with so much determination deeply moves Park once again. He realizes the girl he loves isn't just beautiful. She's strong, hardworking, and carrying burdens most people could never understand. Before leaving, Park nervously tells her that when the first snow finally falls, he wants to meet her at their usual place, the abandoned house they restored together. He says there's something important he needs to tell her. The next morning, however, Park suddenly skips class. Soyu notices his absence immediately and quietly grows worried, though she tries not to show it. Later that evening, just as she's about to head home, Yiwook stops her and invites her out. Soyu hesitates, explaining that Park has been missing all day and she's worried about him. But Yiwook assures her they can search for him afterward and convinces her to come along. What Soyu doesn't know is that while everyone else was attending class, Park had been working non-stop on something special for her. Using the sketch she made earlier, he spends the entire day building a miniature model of her dream house by hand. Every tiny detail was made with love. Meanwhile, Yiwook takes Soyu to a bar that evening. Throughout the night, she repeatedly tries calling Park, but his phone battery has already died. Sensing her distracted mood, Yiwook encourages her to stop worrying and just enjoy the night instead. At the same time, Park waits anxiously outside for Soyu to return. He keeps imagining the moment he'll finally confess everything to her. But when she eventually arrives, the happiness in his heart instantly shatters into something unbearable. Soyu is completely drunk, leaning helplessly against Yiwook's body for support. Yiwook holds her tightly as he walks her toward her room, their faces dangerously close. For a brief second, it even looks like he's about to kiss her before taking her inside. Then the door closes behind them. Silence fills the hallway except for faint breathing coming from the room. Park stands there frozen. His entire world collapses in that moment. The girl he loved, the girl he dreamed about, was now behind a closed door with another man. His mind spirals with heartbreak, jealousy, humiliation, and despair all at once. Unable to endure it any longer, he quietly walks away into the night. For the first time in his life, darkness completely takes over his thoughts. As he walks home alone, Park silently wishes Soyu would disappear from his life forever. And somewhere deep inside, he makes himself a painful promise. He will never fall in love again. Days pass after that, and Park completely cuts Soyu out of his life. No calls, no conversations, nothing. Confused and deeply hurt by his sudden disappearance, Soyu finally confronts him directly and demands to know why he's avoiding her. Why did he suddenly push her away without explanation? But the Park standing in front of her now feels like a completely different person. Coldly, he tells her that he doesn't want to see her anymore. Her smile irritates him. Her laughter endears him. Being around her only fills him with pain now. Then, with tears hidden behind his empty expression, Park begs her to live her own life far away from him. He tells her they should walk separate paths and never cross each other's lives again. Finally, he asks her to disappear from his world completely. And on that exact same day, the first snow of the year finally begins to fall. Remembering the promise Park once made to her, Soyu quietly returns to the abandoned house on the day of the first snowfall, believing he might still come. Snow continues falling as she waits alone in the freezing cold for hours, staring at the entrance every time she hears even the slightest sound. But Park never appears. Slowly, hope fades from her eyes. With a heavy heart, she finally accepts that he isn't coming. Before leaving, she places her MP3 player and her favorite cassette tape carefully on the staircase, hoping that someday Park will find them and realize that she had kept her promise until the very end. Then the story suddenly jumps forward 10 years. Time had changed everything. After separating from Soyu, Park threw himself into one thing only: success. He worked obsessively, pushing himself beyond exhaustion because he never wanted to feel powerless or inferior again. Every painful memory became fuel for his ambition. More than anything, he wanted to change his family's life forever. And eventually, all those years of sacrifice finally paid off. The shy, insecure boy who once wore torn clothes had now become a wealthy and respected architect. The dream he once spoke about so timidly had finally become reality. But success came with scars. Ever since the night his heart broke, Park developed a smoking habit he could never escape. Over the years, it became part of him, something even his assistant and fiancée Yunin constantly complained about. She often warned him that clients might stop visiting the office because of the smell of cigarettes everywhere, but Park never cared. Calmly brushing off her concerns, he insisted his smoking had nothing to do with the quality of his work. If clients had a problem with it, they could simply hire another architect. Losing a few customers meant nothing to him anymore. Then one ordinary day, everything changes again. One of his employees informs him that a client from Jeju Island specifically requested Park to personally design her house, and that client's name was Soyu. At first, the name barely registers in his mind. 10 years is a long time, and many memories had become blurry. But slowly, the past begins resurfacing piece by piece. The abandoned house, the first snowfall, the heartbreak, and suddenly Park realizes exactly who she is. When they finally meet again after all those years, Soyu wastes no time with awkward greetings. She immediately explains that she wants to build a house on Jeju Island and insists that only Park can design it. At first, Park hesitates. He's already overwhelmed with another important project and has no desire to reopen old wounds. But one of his colleagues offers to handle the ongoing work, giving Park the freedom to take Soyu's project instead. Later, the two sit together in a cafe to discuss the details. As they talk, Park quietly tries reconnecting fragments of their shared past while asking about her current life. Soyu explains that she eventually achieved success, though not in the way she originally dreamed. She never became the famous broadcaster she once wanted to be. Instead, she ended up marrying a wealthy businessman. Thanks to his financial support, she now has enough money to finally build the dream house she once imagined, no matter how expensive it becomes. She confidently tells Park that she's willing to pay whatever amount he asks for. But as the conversation continues, painful memories begin flooding Park's mind again. All the heartbreak he buried for years slowly resurfaces, especially after hearing that Soyu is married now. Overwhelmed by mixed emotions, Park suddenly refuses the project entirely. Hurt and disappointed, Soyu quietly apologizes for wasting his time before leaving the cafe. Yet after she walks away, something inside Park begins to shift. A small voice deep in his heart keeps pushing him to reconsider. Eventually, Soyu explains the true meaning behind the house she wants rebuilt. It wasn't just any house. It was her family's old home. She had dreamed of restoring it so that once her father recovered, he could spend the rest of his life there peacefully. When Park finally visits the property himself, he notices that despite its age, the structure is still strong. Rather than rebuilding everything from scratch, he suggests renovating and repairing it instead. Trusting his judgment completely, Soyu tells him she believes anything designed by him will turn out beautifully. In the end, Park decides to show her some of his ideas for the renovation. But after their second meeting, Soyu also begins getting pulled back into old memories. At one point, she even goes shopping to buy Park an expensive tie before stopping herself midway, realizing she needs to maintain emotional distance, especially after Park introduces her to Yunin. During their conversation, Yunin casually reveals that after finishing this project, she and Park are planning to get married and move to America together. Yunin genuinely loves him, and she quietly admits that she wants to make sure Park never again experiences the feeling of being abandoned or rejected like he once was in the past. She mentions that Park had once bitterly said the woman who left him deserved to die. Hearing those words, Soyu falls completely silent. Guilt crushes her instantly because deep down she knows he was talking about her. As the renovation project continues, Soyu finally gathers the courage to directly ask Park if she was truly the woman he hated so much. But Park avoids the question entirely, refusing to answer no matter how many times she asks. Later, while preparing to leave for Seoul, the emotions he had suppressed for years finally explode. Park accuses Soyu of only understanding happiness while never understanding the pain and struggles he endured because of her. But Soyu, now emotional herself, argues back that he never once gave her the chance to explain anything. After their argument cools down, Park apologizes to Yunin over the phone for delaying his return flight, blaming it on issues with the project. One evening, while half-conscious and emotionally exhausted, Soyu finally opens up completely to Park. She confesses that despite all the money and luxurious lifestyle she gained after marriage, she was never truly happy. Inside, she always felt empty. Then she reveals a heartbreaking truth: she divorced her husband a year ago. Through tears, she admits she never loved him in the first place and only married him because of his wealth. Calling herself a worthless woman undeserving of anything good, she unknowingly repeats the same cruel words Park once said to her years earlier. Completely overwhelmed, Soyu suddenly breaks down crying. Seeing her like this, Park gently pulls her into his arms and quietly tells her to calm down. Softly, he assures her that until the renovation is finished, he'll stay by her side. Later one night, Soyu receives a frightening call from the hospital informing her that her father's condition has worsened. She rushes there immediately and desperately reassures him that their house is finally being restored. She promises him that once he recovers, it will look even more beautiful than before. The following morning, Soyu returns to the renovation site once again. During a small break, she invites Park to walk around the village with her. Then, teasing him playfully, she asks whether he remembers what makes that particular day special. After thinking for a moment, Park smiles softly and correctly guesses the answer. It was November 11th, her birthday. Grateful that he still remembered after all these years, Soyu happily tells him that this time, she's going to treat him to dinner as part of the celebration. During one of their conversations about the renovation, Soyu suddenly asks Park if they can somehow modify the design to include a piano room inside the house. Considering how far construction had already progressed, the request was incredibly difficult and would require major changes. But Soyu refuses to back down. Quietly, she explains that the piano isn't for her, it's for her father. She tells Park how much her father used to love hearing her play when she was younger. Then, with trembling eyes, she reveals the heartbreaking truth she had been hiding all along. Her father doesn't have much time left. In that moment, Park finally understands that this entire project was never just about rebuilding a house. Soyu simply wanted to create one final beautiful memory for the man who had sacrificed everything for her. But her request immediately creates tension with Yunin. She strongly opposes the idea, arguing that redesigning part of the structure this late would waste valuable time and delay everything. She even reminds Park that their wedding is only a month away. Despite the pressure, Park refuses to abandon Soyu's wish. Calmly but firmly, he promises he'll make the changes without causing major delays. When Kyung offers to take over the remaining construction work to make things easier, Park rejects the suggestion immediately. He insists on finishing the house himself with his own hands. For him, this project had already become far more personal than anyone realized. Eventually, after weeks of non-stop effort, the house is completed earlier than expected. Soyu moves in and becomes overwhelmed with emotion the moment she sees the finished result. The house is warm, spacious, elegant, and even more beautiful than she had imagined in her dreams. Looking around with teary eyes, she sincerely thanks Park for pouring his heart into every detail. She says her father is going to be incredibly happy when he finally comes home. But just as Park prepares to leave, something suddenly catches his attention inside the house. Sitting quietly among the belongings is the miniature model home he built for Soyu all those years ago. The sight instantly drags him back into the painful past he tried so desperately to bury. Years of suppressed emotions explode at once. Overcome with anger and confusion, Park lashes out, demanding to know why she kept something like that after everything that happened between them. Soyu quickly tries explaining herself. She tells him she never threw it away because it meant too much to her. Then, for the first time, she finally opens up completely about the past. She admits she made mistakes, but insists there were things Park never understood. Through tears, she reveals the truth about what really happened with Yiwook that night years ago. She explains that when Yiwook tried taking advantage of her, she fought back and slapped him. In that terrifying moment, she desperately hoped Park would appear and save her. But instead of comfort, all she received from him afterward was rejection and coldness. Soyu confesses that after that day, she tried forcing herself to hate Park. She truly wanted to erase him from her heart. But no matter how hard she tried, her love for him never disappeared. Even after all these years, Park was still her first love. Hearing those words completely shatters Park. In an instant, he realizes that everything he believed for the last decade had been wrong. The heartbreak, the hatred, the resentment, all of it had been built on a misunderstanding. Yet despite finally uncovering the truth about their feelings, the two decide to separate once again and continue living their own lives. Park returns to Seoul, while Soyu stays behind to take care of her father. Still, the emotions between them refuse to disappear completely. One day, Soyu's father accidentally discovers a photo of Park on her phone. Curious, he asks who the man is. After a brief silence, Soyu quietly answers that he's just a friend. Meanwhile, although Park remains physically beside Yunin, his thoughts constantly drift back toward Soyu, the girl who became his first and greatest love. Struggling with the chaos inside his heart, Park later visits his mother and asks her to move to America with him after the wedding. But his mother gently refuses. Handing him some money, she explains that she cannot leave the home where she spent her entire life. It was the place where she got married, where she heard her child cry for the first time, and where countless precious memories were created. She says she wants to spend the rest of her life in the same home that witnessed all of her happiest moments. Then, with a calm wisdom only a mother could have, she tells Park that she's grateful for everything life and God gave her, even the simple things. To her, happiness was never about wealth. As Park looks at her more carefully, he notices something painful. She's still wearing the old clothes he once angrily threw away years ago. He falls silent immediately. His mother softly tells him that God always knows what's best for the people he creates. Sometimes happiness hides inside pain, and sometimes suffering unexpectedly leads people towards something meaningful. Finally, she congratulates him on his upcoming marriage and assures him that no matter how far away he goes, she will always wait for the day he returns home. Time passes, and eventually Park marries Yunin. Soon after, the couple leaves Korea and moves to America to begin their new life together. Back on Jeju Island, Soyu settles into the renovated home with her father and starts giving piano lessons there, trying to quietly move forward with her own life as well. Then one day, a package arrives for her unexpectedly. Inside, she discovers the old MP3 player and the cassette tape she left behind at the abandoned house during the first snowfall years ago. Along with them is a letter from Park. In the letter, he thanks Soyu for every memory they shared together, for her smile, her laughter, and for allowing him to experience love for the very first time in his life. He apologizes for not showing up on the night she needed him the most. He apologizes for letting pride become stronger than love. And most painfully of all, he apologizes for never being able to properly deliver the feelings hidden inside his heart to hers. In the end, Park accepts the choices both of them made and encourages Soyu to continue moving forward in the life she chose.